your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Chrissie is hilarious.
Chrissie, have you ever heard of the comedian Basha K. Ali?
No, that sounds like something you yell out before you blow up a plane.
30 seconds remaining.
But you know what good you say? I doubt it will stand up to something. I have no disrespect for you at all.
I was very confused by the title, Everything Everywhere All at Once, because that's also what we call it when Ash takes off his shirt.
I shouldn't be up here. I should be in school on the other side of the ocean.
What's up, boys and girls? Welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr Podcast. I am your host, Chrissie Mayr. You can listen to this podcast all over the place, really. iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Rumble, Rockfin, Twitter even, Facebook. Yeah, I feel like Facebook, my days might be numbered with Facebook, and that's fine. Facebook is for old people anyhow. Before I bring in my fabulous guest, and we are going to get into the Trevor Bauer news. It's really groundbreaking. It really is bothering me. I'm very fired up about it. We're going to definitely get into that. But first, I have a couple of comedy shows that I want to promote. Let's bring up the old website of Rooney. Okay. Oh, look, it's zoomed in on the wrong place. Okay, I'm going to be in Minnesota in just a couple of weeks, headlining the Great River Bowl and Partners Pub. Saturday, October 21st, Lila Hart, my very good friend, very funny comic who tours with me all over the country, will be there, featuring, as so will Nick Rekieta. He will be the special guest doing comedy. Yes, you heard me. Nick Rekieta will be doing comedy on my show in Minnesota in 2 weeks from Saturday. So get your tickets, people. I've never been to Minnesota before, so I need you guys to tell me what's hot in town to do, where all the cool spots are. Then I'll be back on Long Island headlining the Brokerage Comedy Club in Belmore, Friday, October 27th and Saturday, October 28th. Then back to Tampa, Florida, Sunday, December 3rd to headline the Side Splitters Comedy Club. Love a Tampa moment. Then I'll be back in San Diego at the beginning of the year, January 5th and 6th at the Mic Drop Comedy Club. I'm doing 3 shows that weekend. For tickets, go to chrissiemayr.com and get your tickets before these shows sell out, okay? You guys don't want to have FOMO. Something viral is bound to happen at one of my stand-up shows. It just, at this point, it's statistics, really. I think I have a viral moment just about every other show. Or a heckler, you could heckle me, or be heckled, or you could get punched in the face by a heckler. Things can happen. It's very exciting. Okay. I guess today she's a paralegal. She's a regular guest on the Legal Vices show. She's LawTube adjacent. She's a baby LawTuber. She's not there yet, but I have high hopes for this girl. She is on YouTube covering trials and cultural commentary. She's just super smart, and we're very excited to have her on the show today. Welcome, Chandler Remington.
Thanks so much for having me, Chrissie. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here because anytime some legal story pops off, I go, who can I talk to? Who knows more than me? Which is most people. But you are specialized in the field of law, and you're a young person still. So we are definitely going to get into the Trevor Bauer stuff. But first, I want to know what kind of brought you into the field. What do you want to be when you grow up? And how did you come to be a content creator?
Good questions. So essentially, I didn't know what I wanted to do in college. I thought I wanted to go to like maybe medical school. I was really ambitious, but I was also really argumentative and really sassy. And I figured out that I wanted to do law when I realized that medicine was would be like an absolute disaster for me. So I decided that I wanted to kind of go the paralegal route after college instead of going straight into law school because I wanted to see if I could hack it. I wanted to get some experience and actually work in a law office. So I started working in law. I think in my last quarter of college, I got my first law job. And I worked in an entertainment firm in Beverly Hills, which was a lot of fun. I really loved that experience. I learned a lot about like copyright law.
LA.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm an Angelino, born and raised. I've been here my whole life. So,
Oh
yeah.
wow, you're still there.
Yeah, I'm still here for some unknown reason. Like I have not been able to leave somehow. I've tried many times.
I feel you, girl. I'm still in New York, so I get shit for it all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's super liberal and I'm not anymore. Like I, was like a pretend liberal for like a couple years during college, did not suit me. Yeah, and then so here I am, somehow. But have I
We all
answered
have
all
a
of the
liberal
questions? I didn't
phase.
answer all the questions. Yeah, I guess so.
We do.
I guess.
We all have a liberal phase. It's all good. It's just I'm impressed that you were able to pull yourself out of it after only a couple years instead of, I don't know, like spending your entire 20s in it, which is what I did. But you have a very good head on your shoulders. And so how did you end up linking up with Legal Vices and streaming with some of the LawTube folks?
Well, essentially, what happened was I started watching the Depp trial last year, and I was really compelled by it. And I was also kind of like a fake feminist at the time. And I had a conversation with a male friend of mine that kind of red pilled me. And so the story of how I stopped being a liberal and how I came into the social media sphere are kind of tied in together. But I essentially made a Twitter account because nobody in my social circle was talking about the trial at all because it was so taboo. It's like everybody wanted to say that they believed that Amber Heard was a liar, but you couldn't really say that out loud, especially in the entertainment industry, especially with, with actors. There's just this taboo against, saying the forbidden thing. So I started on Twitter and I connected, in spaces. I started watching LawTube. And I watched the Depp trial through LawTube. And eventually I got to the point where, I had a friend that I was going to start a YouTube channel with. And she became friends with Legal Mindset. She was an attorney. And he invited us both on for Murdaugh. And so that was how I met Legal Vices. And we started streaming together. He invited me to do his OJ stream every week. And then ever since then, I don't know, it just kind of blew up. So I've just been doing it. I just show up and I'm myself and people seem to like that. So I've been having fun.
So your friend that red pill, do you remember what it is he said that made the light bulb go off?
Oh yeah, it was huge. We had this whole conversation where he started off by telling me, it was actually the first night that I ever met my friend Will. And we had this conversation where he told me that the scariest thing in America at that moment in time was to be a white man. And because I had been so indoctrinated to believe that, white men are so privileged and they have all of this power, blah, 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 I laughed at him. Like, I was an asshole. I just, laughed in his face. Like, I could not help but do that because I'd been so conditioned. And he looked at me and he said, I really want you to understand what I'm talking about. And that was really rude, but I'm going to ignore it because I feel like I have something really important to tell you and I want to communicate this to you. And so I tried to, I just decided that I was going to listen to him. Basically, I decided to listen to a man, and we had this back and forth basically about I argued with him about how females are privileged and female privilege or female privilege doesn't exist, male privilege exists. It got to this point where it was like an oppression Olympics kind of thing, and it turned out that he had been through way more shit in his life, and being a man didn't protect him from any of the stuff at all that I thought being a man would. And I was just like, fuck, feminism was wrong. My gender studies professor was wrong. And, the whole thing that they teach you about how women are always victims. And, I just started realizing that I had been fed all of these lies. So I looked into statistics. I did a lot of research. And I realized that, like with the Depp Heard trial, DV statistics are actually kind of split down the middle. And women are slightly more aggressive, abusive, violent towards men. So that just, it started me on this cataclysm. I watched the Depp trial, and then I went back to Ricada and I watched the Rittenhouse trial. And, it snowballed from there.
Wow. See, this is a good lesson to like the guys out there listening who think, I don't want to complain. I don't want to be like bitching about how hard my life is. Like, certainly not to a woman who maybe you feel like you have to always be strong and never be complaining in front of. But this is a very good example of how, yeah, if you have a woman in your life who's still like kind of in a brainwashed feminist phase, like I was, like Chandler was, it doesn't hurt to just sort of like pull them to the side and be like, yeah, actually, no, my life is hard for X, Y, and Z reasons. And some might say it's even easier to be a female. So
I would. I would
it's
definitely
always
say that.
good to have these conversations. You could be somebody's red pill moment. You could, be the person that helps turn them around. So that's really interesting. Yeah, the Amber Heard trial was really eye-opening. I think it really it did so much damage to the Me Too movement,
Mm.
and it just was this perfect storm of Johnny Depp, who people have a lot of nostalgia and kind of like good feeling towards, and a lot of us grew up watching his movies, and not only is it celebrity, but it's like it was juicy, it took a long time, it was many weeks of it, and it just the outfits were hilarious, the things
Oh
she
God,
showed up to court wearing
that's how
were
I started
fun to kind
watching the
of pick apart
trial.
and analyze, and the things she was saying and the lies and just her being so unlikable. There were so many elements to this case that were fun to watch. Oh, look, we have from what's up, Legal Vices? I just did
Okay,
his
Jeff is
stream
in
the
the
other
chat.
day. Let me try to pull up this.
Awesome. Hello.
Back. I just
Oh,
computered out for a second. Legal Vices, hi, ladies. It is I, the King Queer Maker. Oh, King Queen Maker, not King Queer Maker. King Queen
that was a pretty
Maker.
good Freudian
Haha.
slip, Chrissy. I like that.
Legal Vices.
Jeff's
Like
here.
King Queer. I'm not surprised. David Lowe, thanks for the super chat. Chrissy's beauty and wit. Oh my goodness. Always make me feel better after a hard day. You're too much, David. Thank you, sire. So yeah, Amber Heard trial, very damaging to the Me Too movement. Which is why, and we really need people like you, Chandler, and people like Legal Vices and Nick Rekieta and all those guys to explain these cases to us and make it make sense to us who don't understand the legal process, the legal jargon. And it makes these trials a lot more fun to watch because we can understand them and we can follow them. Because if you just put it on the TV, you're like, I don't know what they're saying, I don't know what any of this means. It's kind of easy to tune it out. So I think that's why so many of the law tubers took off during this case, because they should have made a killing. They created a lot of entertainment for people, and we learned a lot too in the process. So now we have another big case that is involving Trevor Bauer, which really this really has been popping off the last couple of days. So Trevor Bauer he's let's see, he's 30 years old when this happened. Started playing Major League Baseball at like 21. Um Played mostly in Cleveland. I think he did 1 year in Toronto. Uh, and then his last year he was playing for the LA Dodgers. And then this woman that he was dating, I guess, accused him of sexual assault or rape or whatever. And so he spent the last 2 years he basically moved to Japan because he couldn't play for the MLB anymore. He had to uproot his whole freaking life, move to Japan, which is the only place that he was able to play ball. And that's what he's been doing the last 2 years. He's a pitcher. So he's like spent years 31 and 32 out of the major leagues. These are the years that are so critical for pitchers because it's really when they're refining and they're finessing and they really come into their own. I think he did win the Cy Young Award. He just was on pace to be one of the best in the league. He already was one of the best in the league, but he was on pace to be like a Hall of Famer. So immense talent, immense potential, and just got fucked basically in this false allegation rape case. And so now the truth is coming out basically in the last couple of days that this woman was full of shit. They discovered a lot in the discovery process in terms of text messages and videos from her phone. So anyway, this is Trevor's tweet from yesterday, 2 years later, and I can finally talk about this. So here's his response.
Sent to a friend before she ever even met me. What should I steal?
Let's start. Okay.
Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers. A text Lindsay Hill sent to a friend before she ever even met me. What should I steal? She asked another in reference to visiting my house for the first time. The answer? Take his money. So how might that work? I'm going to his house Wednesday, she said. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll. Then, after the first time we met, net worth is 51 mil, she said. Bitch, you better secure the bag, was the response. But how was she
Okay, sorry for this internet. I don't know what's going on today.
going to do that? Need daddy to choke me out, she said.
Oh, come on.
Being an absolute whore to try to get in on his 51 million.
I mean, how much more overt could you possibly get?
Okay.
Wow.
This blows me
Then,
away.
after the second time we met,
All right, let me try restarting. I don't know what's wrong. I've closed out all my tabs.
I'm constantly having internet
former
issues.
Padres pitcher
Related.
Oh, but I want to hear Trevor's
I'll give you
video.
50,000, Lindsay replied. Her AA sponsor asked her at one point, do you feel a tiny bit guilty? Not really, she replied. Since then, her legal team
I'm gonna pause this and I want it to replay because there's so many good nuggets in here. I'm gonna close more tabs in the meantime. Da, 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 da. Okay. All right, let's try to restart this little bugger.
Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers.
Even first of all, even seeing this pisses me off. Like, these texts show that this was very deliberate. How fucking diabolical. Just unbelievable. All right, I'm gonna let it play.
Text Lindsay Hill sent to a friend before she ever even met me. What should I steal? She asked another in reference to visiting my house for the first time. The answer? Take his money. So how might that work? I'm going to his house Wednesday, she said. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll. Then, after the first time we met, net worth is 51 mil, she said. Bitch, you better secure the bag, was the response. But how was she going to do that? Need daddy to choke me out, she said.
Ugh.
Being an absolute whore to try to get in on his 51 million, read another text. Then, after the second time we met, former Padres pitcher Jacob Nix told her, you got to get this bag. I'll give you 50,000, Lindsay replied. Her AA sponsor asked her at one point, do you feel a tiny bit guilty? Not really, she replied. Since then, her legal team is
Yeah, good point, Filthy. Next victim means there was a previous victim. Means this is what she does.
You know how I roll. I mean, that is sketchy as hell.
She's not struggling with this. She's not at no point does her conscience come in and be like, oh, you're ruining a man's life. Like, you're financially, socially, his reputation. This man is going to have trust issues towards women for probably the rest of his life. And I'm sure he's completely written off Caucasians at this point entirely. Like, if he's in Japan and a white chick did this to him, he's like, yeah, I'm done. I think I'm just
approached me multiple times about coming to a financial settlement. But
okay, I have to get
as I have done since day one, I refuse to pay her even a single cent.
See, that's a really important piece. I mean, she thinks that she can just kind of squeeze some money out of him and then she'll stay quiet.
Right. The whole point of this was like, oh, well, these are my claims. Give me X amount of dollars. If you don't, I'll go public with it. But if you do give me the money, then I'll shut up. Nobody has to know. You can keep playing ball. And he never gave her a cent.
In August of 2021, Lindsay Hill's claims were heard in court. And during those legal proceedings, critical information was deliberately and unlawfully concealed from me.
It sounds like there were Brady violations in this case, which means that they concealed evidence. They kept evidence that was exculpatory from his team, which is it's illegal. It is a legal violation.
Ooh, how could they do that? How? Because don't in the discovery process, don't they hand over your phone? And what if she tried to here's what I'm wondering. What if she tried to delete texts or videos? Can they still scoop those out from somewhere?
Well, they certainly could, but if you delay the process, so like Amber Heard actually did this in the Depp trial. She was just like, "Oh, I'll give you my phone. I'll do it," and then she delayed it and delayed it, and they ended up not being able to actually substantiate all of her data and go back into the cloud and retrieve everything. But these texts, my understanding is from this case. Now I could be wrong, but it simply was not handed over, but was later
Okay.
discovered. When there was probably some kind of subpoena, for her, for her phone, for her information, that either she didn't comply with, or they subpoenaed her too late. But I don't want to misrepresent this case. I actually have just started to look at it, so I don't know exactly what the legal process was there. But there are definitely ways to keep that information out.
And it's it's brand new. So everyone, I feel like everyone's sort of just catching up on this. Okay, so let's see if we can play it a different way here.
And my legal team. Information like this video, which was taken by Lindsay Hill herself the morning after she claimed she was brutally attacked, emotionally traumatized, and desperate to get away from me. And now we have the metadata, so there can be no dispute. It was taken mere minutes before she left my house on the morning of May 16th, 2021. Without my knowledge or consent, of course. In it, you can see her lying in bed next to me while I'm sleeping,
passed out.
smirking at the camera without a care in the world, or any marks on her face. I think it paints a pretty clear picture of what actually happened the evening of May 15th and why the video was originally concealed from us. After hearing the evidence available to her, Judge Diana Gold-Saltman found that Lindsay Hill had misled the court. She found her claims to be materially misleading. She denied her request for a domestic violence restraining order, and she found that no sexual assault or non-consensual conduct took place. Now, some of you might not know about restraining order hearings. I know I didn't, but I've since learned that it's extremely rare for a request for a restraining order to be denied because the standard of proof that you need to obtain one is extremely low. So you can make of that what you will.
I'm not the only one having issues, I guess.
What's that?
I was never charged with a crime, and I won the only legal proceeding that took place without my side of the story even being heard. And most importantly, as I've said from day one, I never sexually assaulted Lindsay Hill, or anyone else for that matter. So I sued her, which prompted her to countersue me. Quite frankly, regardless of the outcome in court, I've paid significantly more in legal fees than Lindsay Hill could ever pay me in her entire life. And I knew that would be the case going in. But the lawsuit was never about the money for me. It was the only way for me to obtain critical information to clear my name. The discovery process in that lawsuit recently concluded, at which point Lindsay Hill's legal team again came to us with another proposal to resolve the case. This time, however, they weren't seeking any money from me. Having received much of the information that had been hidden from us, a small portion of which I've referenced here, I was willing to agree to the terms proposed. Both parties would drop their respective lawsuits, and neither of us would pay either side any money. I also retained my right to speak publicly about the case, something I have not been at liberty to do since June of 2021. So, as of today, both lawsuits have been settled. Now, over the last 2 years, I've been forced to defend my integrity and my reputation in a very public setting. But hopefully this is the last time I have to do so, as I'd prefer to just remain focused on doing my job, winning baseball games and entertaining fans around the world. So today, I'm happy to be moving on with my life.
Wow.
Yeah. Jesus.
Whoo. It seems like just this clip alone is a lot to unpack.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. Definitely, but it's pretty clear.
Why would she take a video of herself, I guess the day of that she's about to do this? It's like she's scheming with what? A friend? Is she scheming with another MLB guy? It's just
It sounds
and
like
yeah,
she's texting a female friend, I think.
And she's like she knows exactly what she's doing. It's how do you even know what to do? It's I don't know. I feel like I'm watching like Ocean's 11, but of like dumb whores who would try to screw over a guy's life. You know, it just
I
seems
mean,
so
yeah.
expert level manipulation.
Well, she did put whore in all caps. I mean, that part was pretty clear. Like, I'm sure that, you know, it seems to me like she sent that video probably to that same friend that she was texting, who she was, you know, kind of scheming with. And I mean, tip number one, like, if you're going to commit a crime, you know, don't tell somebody about it in a text message or an email. Like, that's rule number one. Like, that's just like dumb criminal shit. Like, it's it's so disgusting because, like, you know, she was so dumb, but he still lost his career, years of his, you know, his life defending these allegations, tons of money, his reputation. There's still people who think that, you know, he is an assaulter and an abuser, even with this evidence. So she screwed him.
Right, because there are going to be people for years, if not for his lifetime, that won't know that he ultimately ended up innocent of this, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, you're the rape guy." It's just once it's on the internet, not all the sites do updates or edits, and this is so damaging. And I think I don't know if it was you, it might have been you who said that false people who are falsely accused of rape, it's actually more damaging than people who are actually raped because like there's no healing process. You know what I mean? Like it's far worse for your reputation and you never quite kind of heal from it.
Yeah, I tweeted that today, and you know, I'm open to other perspectives on that particular, you know, line of commentary because it might be a little controversial to say that, but I say that as somebody,
I'm sure
you
there's a
know,
lot of feminists who would be ready to say you're completely wrong about that. Like, oh no, look what he did to my asshole. But it's like, all right, that's at least kind of less public than what this guy is going through. He had to uproot his entire life. He's hitting the peak years of his career. He had to move to a different country
yep.
just so he could continue to do his job. But good on him because I could have seen a lot of players just ponying up the money just so they could get back to work, get back to playing, and he didn't. Like he really, out of principle, stuck to his guns and was like, "No, I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. Like my name is more important, I guess. I'm not just gonna hand you money."
See,
Uh,
that's the problem though. A
it's
lot of these
wild.
guys, like, there will be false allegations and guys will get scared and they will, you know, if they have money to give to make a problem go away, they will do that even if they're innocent, even if they didn't really commit an assault. And then years later it can be used against them because this guy's a target, you know, he's, you know, high earning. And so lots of people are going to want to make up lies about him. I have read, you know, stories that like other girls have, you know, accused him, you know, apparently has like a choke fetish or something, which is like, that doesn't make you an
Does
assaulter.
he really? See, that's a very tricky fetish to have nowadays
Mm.
because women like this will take advantage of that, you know, and it really does. It ruins it for the rest of us who like to be choked here and there every now and again, and it's like, well, now it's a big red flag if a girl asks you to choke them because you're like, oh, you're trying to steal all my money and ruin my life.
Yeah, I mean, one girl, you know, basically just said, like, oh, well, you know, he was choking me, but he did it a little too hard and I couldn't really say anything. And so, therefore, you know, it was assault. And she's like, you know, sometimes that happens if you're into that. If you say yes, that might happen. That's why you have to come up with, you know, a safe word or parameters or a signal or fucking something. You know, it's ridiculous.
Hmm.
I just think it's very, it's, it's, it's very obvious, you know, that when allegations like this come out, people get really antsy because
Hmm.
you never want to, you know, say that somebody wasn't a victim if they really were. You don't want to be that asshole, but you also don't want to ruin somebody's life over something that hasn't been proven. So society's in a really tricky spot. I think it's very obvious though that somebody with money is going to be a target. So
Hmm. Yeah.
maybe he's done some bad things, but maybe he hasn't. I think with this case it's very very clear that this girl went after him, targeted him, and she's the criminal and she should be charged.
He was suspended from I guess it was going to be more 324 games, but they got it down to 194 games, but it didn't matter. So it's like he went on to Japan. I don't see him moving back anytime soon.
Probably
I
not.
just feel like he's probably over it. He's probably like, yeah, fuck the MLB. I'm just done with all of it. He's like, I'm just gonna be big in Japan. I feel like he's gonna find a cute little Japanese girl and just be very happy.
I hope so.
Um,
I hope he can be happy, you know. I hope he can move on from this because this really
yeah.
like is so incredibly egregiously unfair for him to have to deal with this. It's very obvious that this woman, you know, used him. And she just gets away with it, right? Like,
This is who she was scheming with. She was scheming with former Padres pitcher Jacob Nix about.
Oh.
It's like, I guess, does she have a thing for pitchers? I don't know. Maybe they're good at fingering. About her intentions and getting into the background of court cases. Bauer drops the biggest bombshell around the 1 minute mark. It's the video that appears to be the two of them. It's this video here of them laying in bed together. This was the video that was unlawfully concealed from him and his legal team. And the metadata proved that she took it just before leaving his place. So, I mean, don't they sit down, major league players, really all professional athletes? Like, isn't there a person to be like, here's what type of women to look out for? These are red flags. Like, doesn't this, I mean, I don't know very much about sports, but like, isn't there a person whose job it is to be like, be careful of these hoes, you know?
Or to vet the hoes and figure out, if they're hoes that are,
Vet your hoes.
Are they going to be fun hoes?
Exactly.
That like the right type of hoes or the wrong type of hoes? It's a good question to ask.
Right.
You got to have somebody vetting the hoes.
Derek Jeter knew what he was doing. He gave away plentiful baskets with NDAs, and he had a lot of treats and edible arrangements that he was giving away. A lot of going away presents for these women. Be like, oh, enjoy this basket on your way out. He seemed to handle it the best. Maybe that could be a side business for somebody. They could make baskets for Major League Baseball players who have to get hoes away. I don't know. But poor guy, life completely upended, completely changed the course of his life. There's some people who thought he was kind of a dick. He kind of found him kind of eccentric, but that doesn't mean he deserves all the stuff that's happened to him.
Well, that's what people have said about Russell Brand too. I mean, you don't have to like somebody. Somebody can be like unpleasant and have a personality that, doesn't vibe with yours. It doesn't make them a criminal. I've seen people say things like, I always had a bad feeling about that person. Like, hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah, come on. You're just trying to get credit. Like, yeah, you're like, you knew. Oh, I had a sense that this was going to happen. It's like, no, you didn't.
No, but then so she gets off scot-free. Like, she can just move on with her life and keep targeting guys and, siphoning money off of them.
Yeah, she can just move on to professional golfers or, I don't know, blackjack players or whatever. And remember, this happened when he was playing for the Dodgers. So this is like some diabolical LA chick. And it's like, yeah, and maybe you should have stayed in Cleveland. I don't feel like chicks in Cleveland are up to this kind of shenanigans. I could be wrong, but
you never know. I don't know. They're crazy.
I feel like women in Cleveland are just trying to fit into their jeans. Okay. They're just trying to microwave their pizza and get into their pants. Okay. And these LA chicks cannot be trusted. Chandler, you're amongst them.
Yeah. I mean, what can I say? I've been labeled a pick me. I tend to hang out with guys more. I do have girlfriends, but they tend to be a little different, I guess.
Yeah, and then you look at someone like Aaron Judge, who's one of the star players for the Yankees. He's married, got married kind of young. This woman has stayed with him through his whole career, through his whole glow up. And it's like, maybe that's the way to go for these athletes. Like, maybe just fight. But that's the thing. When you have every puss coming at you, like every which way, you're drowning in puss, but it's like, yeah, but you could get fucked over big time. A woman could ruin your whole career. That's a very scary thought. And maybe it's better to just wait and get married.
Zuckerberg is, like he's with his wife. They've been happy for a long time. They have their kids, like, I mean, honestly, it's just better to meet somebody before you get rich. But then you have, people coming out of the woodwork from like, oh, I slept with you 10 years ago and it wasn't consensual, just so you know. Like, now that you have money, I'm going to make a whole thing about this. Like, it's just, that's become an issue. It's really challenging.
Who remembers sex from 10 years ago? I can't remember sex from 10 days ago. Who are these people with this insane memory? What? Are these elephants? I don't remember shit.
Their memories are super vivid. Like, they really remember. Like, I mean, that exactly, right? Like, how do you remember?
Chandler, do you think that how what do you have a detailed diary entry? Chandler, what do you think this will cause any reform? Do you think this will what this change is this case going to have going forward? Do you think there'll be absolutely nothing?
I mean, nothing legally. When you look at cases, the legal standard is really challenging, and the he said, she said issue is going to be an issue in, sexual assault cases. Always. It's always going to be very hard to prove what happened between two individuals, in an intimate setting where nobody was a witness. This case is going to have perhaps a social impact. But I don't know exactly what's going to happen moving forward because, the case itself, is over. I don't know if he's going to have any more litigation pending this. But ultimately, it's not going to change the law, just like the Depp case didn't have any impact on the law. It might have a social impact, though, because people might see that and go, oh, well, some women are obviously like that, and some women might do that, and I need to be wary of that. But I think most people know that already. So I don't know. I don't think it'll really change much.
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of another example of, like, this is, this woman is, obviously... has lascivious intentions, and we're starting to see that more and more. And so the Me Too Foundation is kind of crumbling. The Believe All Women thing is starting to, it's starting to really unravel, like, more and more, which I actually think might be a good thing in a weird way, even though it also is a bad thing.
It's the best thing that could happen. So apparently this woman, the accuser, I don't know how Alex Stein got her, but he's a miracle man. So he had her on his show.
Oh.
I don't know if they just flew her out or what.
Wow.
So she is on Alex Stein's show. This is from 2 hours ago.
Okay.
So he moved quick on this. I don't know how he got her out here so quick. And she's responding to his viral video. Let me see if I'm starting it at the right point here. And she looks totally different. I wonder if she dyed her hair brunette, like after the shit hit the fan.
She looks like Auburn. I don't know. It's okay.
Jimmy, example. You know why? Because Jimmy's best friend is Harry Season. Did you know that?
That's disgusting.
I'm not kidding.
Let's see if they talk about it in the beginning, because maybe Alex is just doing I'm gonna just chit chat. I'm not gonna.
All of these imbeciles like Harry Season.
Okay.
Are lying. I want to welcome on the one and only Sarah Fields. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I appreciate you being here, Sarah. So I don't know if you watch the show much, but I am stressed. I need some energy.
This is not her. This is her. Oh my God, I'm sorry. She zoomed in. Now this makes sense. I was like, what the hell?
I think what I'm seeing.
Okay. Let me
the metadata. So
scrolling it back. Here we go.
How
did he get her on?
What? Maybe there's more to the story than we know, than you know, than I know. And so we're going to give her the ability. We're going to give her the ability to come on tonight and give her side of the story on a platform that's going to get hopefully or potentially
tens of
millions
views.
of eyeballs on it. So with all that being said, I want to welcome on our very special guest, Lindsay Hill. Lindsay, how are you doing this evening?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm sorry I confused her for the other girl.
I didn't know either, but that's obviously her. She's definitely had work done. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, she's had a little bit of Botox. But again, she's an LA chick. There's a lot of competition out there.
Doing better now, Lindsay. Now that you're here, wow, you're very gorgeous. And I don't want to.
Alex is single now.
Everybody though online, Lindsay, before I have you on, they're like, you need to roast that girl. You need to cuss her out. You need to kill her. I don't want to do any of that stuff because I do tend to believe. You know how they always say, "Me too," believe victims. That is a little cliche, but I don't know. I feel like you wouldn't make an accusation if there wasn't something there. So. I want to start off by playing Trevor's clip, and I want to get your initial reaction to it, Lindsay. So let's play the clip.
All right, we watched the clip already. I'm going to scroll it to the end when she starts responding.
Her request for a domestic violence restraining order. And
that has been public for over a year, played and so on. What that has done to blow up the media and seeing these, bigger names, most of them who I really, really respect, weigh in on the situation after watching just a 4-minute video. And I think what I'm seeing is that it's a whole brand new crowd that essentially hasn't followed the case that's been going on and that I have been walking through for 2.5 years, that is weighing in on this. And it's sometimes, the first time they're seeing anything about this case. And it's truly, I've been trying to step back. There's a ton of hate, a ton of just horrible things being said about me. And stepping back, it's just crazy to see, the power of social media. And in this 4-minute video, the amount that is missing, sometimes I just want to scream, have y'all not been paying attention this last 2.5 years from what. As soon as I knew that the settlement was confirmed, I just had been prepping for. Trevor's been attacking me in the media for 2.5 years. So at some point, I'm used to it, and it's something that would be expected. I just didn't know that it would just reach to this level of hate for me, with a lot of asking questions about the MLB arbitrators ruling. It was essentially a mini trial. You know what I mean?
What was her ruling? Sorry, Lindsay. What was the arbitrators? What happened in arbitration, or what can you say?
Yeah, totally. So that was a really crazy time in my life. I think I'm seeing a lot of people say this girl ruined, he's been in Japan for 2 years, but the MLB investigation that initially lasted 10 months dealt with several different women,
Do you want me to play this instead?
All right. This already sounds like, I don't know, a bit rehearsed from her. But again, she's working with a ton of lawyers, so I guess sort of how could it not? I don't know if
different accusations. So I was not the only case that was presented in that. And so I did write it down because I think this is just what everybody's missing. And so when, unfortunately, none of these proceedings, like I said, it was a mini trial, were ever publicized because it was under the confidentiality policy. So it was so hard for me because, being on the other side, getting to play my side of evidence and things like that, it was super hard. And that's the thing that everybody's missing, and Trevor will never talk about, is this MLB arbitration ruling. So at the end of the day, we'll never know what the arbitrator's specific ruling was.
Okay, I'm going to try playing this on a different video, on a different browser. See if this helps.
We'll never know what the arbitrator's specific ruling was that went out to, the teams and whatnot, I believe. But the Dodgers did release a statement that, a big argument of this is, Dodgers are woke and that's why they're doing this. But a neutral arbitrator came in and heard all of the evidence. And this is what the result was. It says 2 extensive reviews of all the available evidence in this case, one by Commissioner Manfred and another by a neutral arbitrator, concluded that Mr. Bauer's actions warranted the longest ever active player suspension in our sport for violations of this policy.
And that was only pertaining to your issue with him, or the other quote unquote allegations, where those all piled in together?
Yes, it was including all of the women's allegations, the evidence.
So you're not solely responsible for his suspension. Is that what you're saying, basically?
Correct. Yes, there was a lot of different things that went into the initial suspension and the arbitrator's ruling, and there was multiple women involved in that. Okay,
Lindsay, let's get to the nitty gritty. Nobody's watching. It's just you and me talking. I like to slap and pull a hair and do this and that. Let's just be real. I mean, we all like to have a little fun. Did he cross the line? What happened? I mean, how does it go from kind of playful, fun stuff to assault? What can you say, and how can you describe the situation?
Yeah, it's actually something, for 2.5 years, I have been testifying on and, explaining things away. Every text message, the video, it all has an explanation.
Well, those text messages are bad, though. Lindsay, you keep bringing the text, and I don't even want to, totally kill you on these texts. But as a person that, listen, these texts, let's look at right here. What does that mean? Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers. That's text 1. That's kind of bad, Lindsay. What is that? I mean, I know you're saying this is no context, and I'm sure you're being sarcastic. I'm guessing. I mean, but what the hell does that mean, next victim?
Yeah, and this is, exactly what Trevor wanted to do, was random pick 3 or 4 texts and weave it into a narrative where I just look horrible. But so, when I explained that and in my deposition and different things, I'm like you. I like to joke. I'm very sarcastic, sometimes inappropriate. Anyone who knows me will know that. And these are private, text messages with my friends. And agreed, victim is not the word there. But what my past, I've been involved with other baseball players. That was my world at the time. And it was a funny way, I had already dated baseball players. And it was a funny, sarcastic way to say, oh, here's the next one, that I'm going to try to get attention from. And it was a lot of ego and, you know, attention seeking behavior, which is what I can own. And what he can't do is own any part, but I can totally own the attention seeking behavior. But these texts, you know, in a grand scheme, don't address what happened at all. This was before any of, you know, our interactions or anything like that.
So what happened though? So in the next text he says, "I need daddy to choke me out." Then the third one it says, "Being an absolute whore to try to get in on his 51 million." And I have to be honest, when I read these text messages, I get a little sexually aroused. But I think that's just because I'm insane. But I mean, what happened? He choked you out. He beat you up because in that one video you were smiling after it. So and you know, you sent me that one phone call that we can't play. He did admit that he hit you in the phone call. He said that. He said yeah, but he said it was consensual. So it's like, I mean, he said, she said at this point, right? So what happened in your opinion?
Totally. I think there's several points I can hit on those other text messages just to address those other horrible ones that are just horrifying to be read out loud to. But I think that, like I said, out of context, horrible. You know, the next line under that is, oh, you know, my friend saying, "Can't wait for you to be a rich baseball wife." There was never text that intermingled violence with finances or anything like that. It was just a way for them to weave this narrative. So, I mean, when you ask me what happened, it's probably the longest story in the world. I think that video of me in the bed the next morning definitely raises a lot of eyebrows.
Because your face didn't look that bad, but then I saw other photos where you had black eyes. So what was that from the same thing? I was confused.
Yeah, so there's another thing that hasn't been public was when my entire body was photographed by, it was called a SART exam. So really the timing of that video, what really happened was all of that really happened. I did not make up an accusation about what he did to me. All of that went down. I have the pictures to prove it. I have the phone call that directly aligns, you know, with no denial of doing all of those things. So that video the next morning, you know, when I'm still I hadn't seen everything that had happened in my body. I really had no idea. And just full of emotion. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist to know what happens after the body takes that kind of experience. But my cousin had Snapchatted me and he knew I was over there and he kind of had said, you know, "Hey, how's it going?" And in my mind at that point, you know, that was probably like 20, 30 minutes before I left Bauer's house. I, you know, was thinking like, there's no way I can tell anyone what happened. First of all, it's so embarrassing because it ended up with me crying and shaking and it was just so embarrassing. And so I record that to just send back to my cousin.
Oh,
like,
this
"Hey,
is embarrassing.
everything, you know, is fine." So that is exactly what happened there with me of just trying to rally and didn't think I would ever say anything about what happened at that point in time. And then I get real fired up about this, is, you know, so that video is taken with no lights on in the room. On Snapchat, it was taken and saved to the app. So a lot of differences there between natural light and all that stuff.
And it takes a minute for a bruise to come up. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not just a bruise takes a minute to come up. So yeah.
This guy's so hard for this.
Alex, you know, can see that bruises will take time. That video was taken maybe 4 hours after everything happened. So
what's that?
I took that and I, you know, said this straight in my deposition. If you zoom in, the scratches are all there. You know, you can't see if there's a shadow on my face. So what I did was, and these of course never been public either. Some of them have been. I get in the car about 20 minutes after that and take selfies of my entire face. And there that you can, you know, see the bruise just starting. And the scratching and all of that stuff. Jen. And so then as time went on, I wasn't aware of anything else on my body. But those did develop, you know, within 24 hours. So, you know, and over again, those pictures of me in the car with the bruising starting to develop, the metadata continually handed over and over again to verify that nothing was filtered or anything like that. You know, the metadata has been bulletproof this entire case.
Well, what do you say to the people that, you know, now that you've settled the lawsuit, they're going to say, well, you were lying. What do you say to those people that are calling you a liar?
Why did you drop it?
It's a great question. Like I said, I'm pretty numb to it at this point. I've been dealing with it a lot.
You a liar.
My biggest thing is just, you know, ask questions, maybe do some digging into the case, realize that there's a lot of this that was labeled confidential. Unfortunately, there's other women involved, and I am so confident in, you know, and I was fully prepared to go to trial and to do all those things. And he is the one, that has never
She
been
wanted to be like Amber Heard.
testified under oath. He's never been questioned, cross-examined publicly. And I am the one that has been.
What does this girl do?
So there's just so much. I think that another key ruling in the civil process that had also taken place when he was trying to dismiss my counterclaims was that Judge Selna in California, he did rule that, because Trevor makes this whole argument about the restraining order hearing.
Not being granted.
Keeping in mind that the police didn't give me that cold call transcript between me and him till about 14 months later. I wasn't even able to use that cold call as evidence in my restraining order trial. So Judge Selma,
were you really worried though, Lindsay? Now I'm not trying to cut you off. I mean, do you think he was going to come and hurt you again? You were worried for your safety? Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I was way more concerned with him not contacting me. Okay. And it was just a trippy time for me because I had already cooperated with
But he never hit you, though, outside of anything that you're doing with,
so
in the bedroom,
wasn't.
right? I mean, he was never like, oh, you Snapchatted a guy and hit you, right? I mean, everything was, okay, yeah, okay. Just want to make
Nothing like that. So that, I mean, it's super valid. I think people have a lot of questions about the restraining order as well. It was more so of, that fear of like, well, I can just secure a no contact order, if he does find out I'm talking to the police and whatever, he wants to do. And then, come to find out later that another woman in Ohio, just a year before me, had a temporary restraining order against him. Mm-hmm. Which I feel like also is not talked about as much in this pattern of behavior. So I do think that's all very valid. But what, I was saying is ultimately I got that vindication when the judge in our civil case ruled that Trevor was not cleared of any wrongdoing in the restraining order hearing. And that was
Chandler, do you feel like you have heard everything you need to hear from this? Do you feel like you've
Oh yeah.
Do you want to hear more of this? It's like
no, I have comments.
To me, it seems very like she's got a stack of notes in front of her.
Well, let me just say a couple things. First of all, her face moves a lot more than you would expect to, considering how much Botox and filler she's had. She's smiling a lot. She seems very comfortable. She seems very relaxed. You can tell that she's so traumatized, and she's recounting the most traumatic thing that ever happened to her that forced her to, file charges against this guy, right? Like, she definitely seems like a victim. I'm sorry. I've been through it. I'm a survivor 2 times over, and I know what it's like to tell your story, and you don't have body language like that. None of me relates to her whatsoever. There is nothing bad that happened to this. She is enjoying the attention. She is enjoying being asked questions. She loves being the center of attention. She is a liar. 100%. Wow. There is nothing in those text messages that is being taken out of context whatsoever. And when he asks her a very direct question in the beginning, he's just like, did he cross a line? What happened? She never answers that. She doesn't at all. She avoids it, and she talks about other things. She talks about herself. She doesn't address that. He asks her twice. I think that that's very telling. Because if you did cross the line, you would just say yes,
Instagram.
What does she do anyway? What's her deal?
What is this? It says Sugaring NYC. Does that, okay, either that's a wax place or she's a sugar baby. But she's clearly like very Instagram model-esque. She looks like she loves to travel. Like she's, I don't know. She doesn't look like somebody who is like suffering from abuse, curling up into a hole and can't go on with their life. I don't know.
No, she's a professional false accuser. I don't know what other guy she's done this to, but those texts were really obvious. You can't interpret them any other way. I'm sorry, you can't.
Wow.
Yeah,
this is bad. Yeah, it just seems like she is exposed and she is just spinning and spinning and making excuses.
She's the kind of woman who makes a good case for misogyny, honestly. Like, I can't stand women like that.
Oh, God. Right. This is why we can't have nice things, Lindsay.
Yep.
She's ruined it for us.
Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a pantload. Wow. Yeah, I wonder if we're going to see texts to her friend going, next victim, host of the Blaze TV show, The Pimp on a Blimp. He's next. Yeah.
I'm
Watch out, Alex.
I'm surprised that she would do that interview, but it's it shows exactly what he showed in his video. It shows the same reality. I see no discrepancy. It's confirmation.
Yeah. She doesn't seem genuine. She's there's no feeling coming from her face.
She seems happy to be there. She seems really excited to be getting the attention. And, if you're talking about a trauma that's like the worst thing that ever happened to you in your life, that's, really horrifying. I mean, I actually had a friend who got into like a situation like that with a girl who wanted to do BDSM type stuff. She asked him to, like hit her so hard that it bruised, took pictures, and then later accused him of doing that not consensually and being abusive.
Well, there you
So
go. Yeah.
that happens.
It's like you can't always look out for these kinky chicks. I know we want fun sex, but it's like you also want to keep your house, okay? And this is just a trend. There was another really interesting story that you brought to my attention, Chandler, of a former Yale student who was acquitted of. This is a story that just came out just a couple weeks ago. Let me pull up. We love the New York Post. Okay. Former Yale student acquitted of rape in 2018 has been cleared to sue his accuser. Now, Chandler, do you want to give me a little bit of background on this case?
Sure. So this case actually came up because I saw Nate the lawyer and Uncivil Law interviewing him. So his name is Saifullah Khan, and he basically attended a Halloween party in, I believe, 2018, had a sexual encounter with a girl. She was drunk, he was drunk. She invited him into her dorm room. They had sex. Apparently she got way too drunk and ended up like throwing up, and she obviously regretted the interaction that they had. She had sent him flirty text messages. She was obviously into him, and she later accused him of rape, basically, and took him to court. He was acquitted of the charges, and then she ended up taking him to Yale's tribunal. Essentially, like, they had their own process for meting out assault allegations. And in that tribunal, essentially, he had a lawyer, but you are not allowed to cross-examine your accuser. And so he was just kind of sitting there like a lame duck, and she's making these allegations against him. They found that he had actually committed the assault, even though he had been criminally acquitted, because obviously the standards are way lower. And it gets to a point where they're like, okay, we're just going to expel you from the university. So everything that he had worked hard for, to get there were actually like racial undertones to this, because he is an immigrant. I believe, I don't know if I can't remember what country he's from. He might be from Pakistan. But there were essentially, school officials who were saying things like, oh, well, he's from a culture where, this is permissible, so he probably did it. And that's documented, essentially, as like they're part of their reasoning as to why they agreed with this and believed in it. So instead of, taking the acquittal seriously, they decided to completely overlook that. And so now the interesting thing is that what she said in this open court tribunal, because this wasn't an actual legal proceeding, he's actually suing her for defamation for the statements that she made in that, sort of arena, in that forum. And he's also suing Yale for, I believe, 110 million, something like that.
Who do you think he'll get it?
I'm not sure. I have to look at the case. But he wasn't allowed to sit in on any of the depositions, and he says that he's going to be sitting in on every single deposition now. That's actually how he ended up connecting with me. We have been talking a little bit, and I might have him on my channel. I have yet to invite him. I want to familiarize myself a little more. But he's a compelling figure, and he's appeared on CNN, and he basically talked about how this was a Kafkaesque nightmare, where he had a consensual encounter. They had some drunk fun, and it does not sound to me in any way like this was sexual assault. I wasn't there, I wasn't her, but it sounds like this is a problem with young men. It's just, like, you have a casual encounter, and then this girl decides, oh, I didn't like that, or I shouldn't have done that. There's a big difference between that and rape. I'm sorry, I think that the line needs to be drawn. And the fact that he was kicked out of school, which, like, he had worked so hard to get into Yale, and that his future was decimated because of that. I think that he's incredibly ballsy to sue the university, because he says basically they're a business, and it did not look good for them to have him acquitted. So for them to kick him out, there's a motivation there. So I hope he succeeds.
He was suspended from class amid the allegations and returned to school after the 2018 acquittal, despite widespread opposition to his return, including a petition with 78,000 signatures. Whoo. Okay. Wow. So it's like it was like a witch trial. Like, they were just like, they wanted his head on a spike, and he was kicked out in 2019.
I mean, they weren't allowed to cross-examine her. You should be, you have a
Wow.
constitutional right to confront your accusers, and because it wasn't really a real court of law, even though he was acquitted of this crime, like criminally, that, you know, it's amazing to me that something like this can happen. You know, like you can be a hardworking young man, you can be, you know, successful, you can, you know, earn everything that you work really hard for, and then you just, like, you have sex one time with one girl and it ruins your entire life. No wonder, you know, guys aren't like getting married or, you know, getting into relationships. Like, I don't blame men. I'd be terrified to be a man right now. I can't imagine. It'd be awful.
Khan is a native of Afghanistan.
Afghanistan.
And started attending this. He was attending Yale on a full scholarship and majored in neuroscience. So this is a mental giant here. His life was ruined.
I mean, he's obviously incredibly intelligent.
That's one less brain
He was very promising.
One less brain scientist.
So he's not going to be contributing to the fields of science or medicine. I mean, you know, I hope, I actually am not really sure. I'm sure that he was able to somehow pick his life up from this. I don't know if he was able to finish his education. I don't know where he's at with his career, but this is going to follow him his entire life. You know, potential employers, you know, if he's able to, you know, finish his college education, which he might have, you know, people are going to look up his name, and this is going to be the story about him. And there are going to be people who will not hire him, even though he was acquitted. So I can understand why he would want to sue. It's infuriating.
Yeah.
Poor kid.
Well,
I just feel so bad
I'll
for
be
him.
checking in on his case, and I hope you do have him on your channel, and I want to follow him and Trevor Bauer, because these are just insane cases. Oh, from Jim Farm. Thank you, Jim Farm, for the super chat. He needed to watch Casino. Oh, do you mean Trevor? I should have pulled this up sooner. But thank you for the super chat. Wow.
I don't get the reference. I'm a movie nerd, but like I don't
either.
There's
I have seen Casino, but it was so long ago.
I have gaps when I'm on legal.
So he was at Yale for 6 years in 2018. He was at Yale for 6 years in 2018. How did he not have a master's at least? Yeah, I wonder how far along he was.
It's possible he took time off.
well.
It's possible he was doing research. I'm not, you know, aware of his resume.
Wow. It's just crazy. I don't know. I hope the laws change, but it doesn't seem likely. It just I don't know. I guess men just have to be so careful. And it's crazy. You know, it's horrible when people, oh, women are evil, women are diabolical. And it's like, yeah, shit like this. It's John Durham says he will probably go back to the Middle East. Honestly, yeah. Go back to where women can't read, where things are simpler.
I mean, well, essentially the problem with this whole thing is it's the education system, really. It's the fact that these colleges can hold these kangaroo courts, you know? I mean, the criminal system did well by him, but Yale screwed him over. And the fact that these universities can, you know, litigate this stuff, like if something bad happens to you, like sexual assault, report it to the police. Do not go to these stupid little campus tribunals, because they are not the law. And that's not how that operates. That's a crime. You need to report that person. If it is a crime, leave a paper trail, you know, go and report, like, you know, get a rape kit done, whatever you need to do. But if you're just going to the university, I mean, they don't know what they're doing. It's ridiculous.
No.
Like that needs to be,
they're not real cops.
Abolished. Absolutely. And the fact that it happened at Yale, it's like, you know, you think that Yale is like this incredible university, but the fact that they let this happen is really horrifying. So I don't know. I'm just sickened by stories like this, and you keep seeing them over and over again. They're all over the place, and it's just so frustrating. And I think that false allegations are really horrible, because it makes it really, really hard for people who actually go through it, because everybody's going to look at you like, did it really happen? Were you just, you know, it's messed up, and I hate that.
Right. And if this ever really does happen to a woman, they'll look at the guy. Is he successful? Is he famous? Is he
wealthy?
rich?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if he's any of those things, guess what? You're not going to be taken seriously.
Nope.
So women out there, just date poor guys. This won't happen to you. No.
My brain went there too.
Chandler, what an absolute delight you are. I'm sorry my internet was so finicky today.
It
I will
happens.
definitely have to have you back.
That'd be
Tell
great.
the good people where they can follow you and what is coming up.
Well, you can find me at Remy_legal, which is under my name right there, on Twitter/X and also on YouTube, or you can just search for Chandler Remington and I'll pop up. You can subscribe to me if you're interested in my kind of content. I just do a lot of stuff about kind of exposing, the inequalities in gender. And I have a stream every Friday just called F Feminism, basically, where I just talk about this, how feminism is, a scourge upon society and how it's evil. And I have on guests to talk about that. And it's a lot of fun. I am going to be doing that this Friday. I'm going to be having on a Talk with Sally, I believe, almost confirmed. And then I'm strangely and randomly going to be joining Pearl for something on Saturday. So
Oh, wow. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay, that's great. Tell her I say
Yeah.
hello. We love
I
Pearl.
will. I don't know if I'm actually going to be interacting with her. She's starting like this new network called like the Audacity Network, and she put out an ad and she was like, looking for sexists and misogynists, please apply. I'm like, well, I don't necessarily identify as a sexist or a misogynist because I kind of hate both misogyny and sexism. I also
Pearl
hate
is
misandry,
starting
but
a network, like a podcast network.
she's starting this thing and she's like inviting, she's like, hey, bring people on and like, let's see who the audience likes. I don't know if she's actually going to be a part of it, but she's inviting a bunch of creators. She sent me an invite. So I'm going to be doing that on Saturday. And I think it's happening at like 11 Eastern Standard Time. So that's like the exciting stream that I'm about to be on. So that'll be cool. Don't know what to expect, but I think it'll be a good time.
I love this. And I'll have to have you come on Simcast sometime.
Yeah.
This would be these what we covered tonight are also great topics for Simcast, and that is on any Sunday that you're free. Well, I'll have to DM you a few dates, but that's every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm very excited to looking forward to you to seeing you on this new Pearl endeavor. Everyone follow Chandler on Twitter, on YouTube, all of the places. Sign up to her OnlyFans. Do it all.
What OnlyFans?
I'm just kidding.
Sign up for the other girl. Lindsay is OnlyFans because she has one. Definitely. I mean,
there should be for sure she has one. Yeah. I would be shocked if she didn't. Chandler, you're the best. Thank you for coming on and helping me sort out all these stories. It's just disgusting, and
it's egregious, but it's like you talk about it and you express outrage and then some feminists yell at you. That's just how life goes. So,
right. It's disgusting that we live in a culture that glamorizes and completely supports this kind of behavior, and it all kind of started to become normalized when Cardi B came out and said, like, yeah, when I was stripping, I would drug dudes and take their wallets. Like, no big deal, got to get that bag. And I think she and many others just really made this type of behavior acceptable, encouraged, glamorized. Men are people to be taken advantage of and tricked rather than supported and loved and encouraged. And it's like men are already having a very tough time and have trust issues, and it's like this all just makes it so much worse.
Well, I love pointing out, when women do screwed up things like that, and because people don't tend to take notice, so I tend to highlight that, especially like on Twitter. I'll see stories like Amy Schumer, Katy Perry. These are women who have they've done things that are, if a man did that, would you be okay with it? That's my question. So, swap the genders. It's pretty easy, but it's been a really interesting journey so far. I'm really glad that I got to come on today.
You're the best. I adore you. I'm going to jump on Tuesdays with Cecil after this. I believe that if you stay on this stream, it will redirect you directly to Tuesdays with Cecil. So I'll see you guys over there. Everyone follow Chandler. Thank you to the chat. We will see you guys next time.